what are some signs that you actually can save your marriage? What are some signs that your marriage is worth saving when you both want the family, even if just one of you don't want to hurt the kids, you don't want a broken family. Maybe you grew up in a broken family, you didn't want one yourself. I grew up in divorce. I grew up in a broken home. I grew up in craziness. I grew up, there was abuse. Luella grew up in alcoholism and divorce. Her mom and dad had both of them had two divorces. They weren't real healthy. And Luella, I never really saw healthy, mature love. And so we came together. But I know this, one of the reasons I would always fight for my marriage, even when we were in our rough times, it's number one, I was not passing on divorce to myself or my children. I wanted my family. I wanted me, I wanted Luella, I wanted an us, and I wanted our family together. I never, ever, 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 ever wanted my kids to have to go through divorce and experience what we went through as kids. Brokenness, being passed from family to family, and from this family to that family, weekend to weekend. It is not a way to live. And yet many kids endure it. Why? Because one of their parents was selfish enough or did something and just threw it away. You know, nobody gets married to be miserable. Nobody gets married to destroy a family. Happens all the time. Why? Maybe because we don't value relationships anymore in the West. We value being right and wrong. I always say it this way, but we don't value relationships anymore. But when you have a desire for your family and your partner has a desire for the family, I bet it can be saved. Why? Because there's something you both want beyond yourself. And my hunch is when a person wants the whole family embedded in that desire for the family is a desire for the marriage. Why? Because a family is only as strong as the marriage is strong. Marriage strong, family strong. Marriage weak and broken, family weak and broken. It's real simple. Next sign is you can still be open and vulnerable with each other. See, intimacy cannot happen without being emotionally open to another person. To be emotionally open to somebody is to be vulnerable. When people are in conflict, they shut down emotionally. And when you shut down emotionally, you're going to distance emotionally, but you'll also distance physically. Because the brain has to have two things to bond another person: emotional openness and physical closeness. You got to have both. And even though you're in conflict, you can still be open to each other. But you have to challenge the fears, though, because listen, when you're in conflict, there's a party that's afraid to be open emotionally. True story. True story. So back in the 2004, 2005 time frame, which was the worst 2 years of my marriage, we went to bed, and it was in that worst 2 year time frame. Not a lot of feeling of us, and I learned from my teachers and mentors. You got to have emotional openness and physical closeness in order to feel a bond, to create a bond. But when you're hurting and fear of being hurt more, you don't tend to be emotionally open, right? So here we are. She's laying with her back next to me, and I kid you not, from 10 to 2 in the morning, I kept thinking this in my head. All you gotta do is roll over, put your arm around her. Just gotta be emotionally open and physically close. That's all you need. And for 4 hours, I kid you not, from 10 to 2, I wouldn't do it. You wanna know why? Wasn't angry. I was afraid. I was afraid to be emotionally open and try and connect to her, rolling over and skewing behind and put my arm around her. What was I afraid of? Rejection. Rejection. That if I did it, she'd shun me. She'd push me away. When you get to a place that you cannot be open and vulnerable with each other at all, that's probably a sign the marriage is over, the relationship's over. So what did I do? About 2 o'clock in the morning, this I know it's a true story. About 2 in the morning, I realized I was giving into fear. By the way, fear will rob you of intimacy. Fear will rob you of vulnerability, because fear will shut your heart down and distance yourself. And here I was for 4 hours, laying awake at night, wrestling in my own head, saying, all you gotta do is roll over, emotional openness, physical. I kept telling myself that. And then around 2 in the morning, I got so mad at myself for being afraid. I lived in fear most of my life, even as a kid. always afraid of being shocked with a cow prod, afraid of being put down by my stepmother, which she did regularly, my dad. And I got angry that I was being afraid. So what did I do? In my anger, it giving into fear, my anger motivated me. I rolled over and put my arm around her, expecting rejection. You know what happened? She took my hand. She took my hand and held it. And then I was mad at myself for wasting 4 hours of sleep. When you both have the ability to be emotionally open and vulnerable with each other, it's worth saving. It is worth saving. Don't throw it away. Fight for it. Because when you both can still be emotionally open with each other, it sends the message that I care, that I still love you, that I still value you. It's worth fighting for. Another sign is when you still desire to have sex with them. That's right. When you still desire to have sex with them, that's worth saving. It's when you've lost the desire and want nothing to do with them physically, sexually. That's a good sign. But when there is a part of you that still wants to be close, that still wants to have sex, that's a sign. There's a part of you that wants to be close to them. Honor that part of you.